Hi, my name's Louise Gardner. I'm the Managing Director of Pledge Consulting, and today I'd like to talk to you about the importance of an integrated portfolio master schedule in an effective PMO. It was Benjamin Franklin that said time is money, and that really is the main reason we attach so much importance on planning and scheduling. When will we do the work? How will we do the work? And who will do the work? Jim Hinz, in his book Construction Planning and Scheduling, has some great quotes. They're not just relevant to construction projects, however. Whether your organisation is in construction, engineering, IT, or even if it's more technology focused, ensuring that you're working to a plan to meet the organisation's strategic goal should be a non-negotiable. Whatever the P in your PMO, be it portfolio, programme or project, I believe that PMOs have a fundamental responsibility to encourage and oversee on-time performance in all project environments. Why? Because of course time is money. Some of the other reasons that planning is so important are perhaps a bit more subtle. Planning helps you organise your workforce requirements, helps you understand which tasks are key and where the risks are. It can be an early warning system for when projects are going off track. The statistics on this next slide are from an Access Group survey, and it reveals that 62% of respondents identified capturing time and cost as their biggest challenge. When you look at the stats in a bit more detail, it also states that 31% say a lack of resource visibility is their biggest challenge, and 35% say no central source of project information is their biggest challenge. All of these challenges can be resolved through an organisational commitment to planning and scheduling, and should be what PMOs are all about. So, perhaps intuitively or maybe based in experience, most people listening to this will already understand the importance of a solid project schedule and the value that that will bring to both project delivery and to the organisation. But still, many organisations don't do it. They put planning on the back seat as an overhead or an expense they don't need, both in the public and private sector. I think most of us have an understanding why they do this, because it's tough. It can be labour intensive to set up. You perhaps need new resources or training for PMs. The roadmap for realising full value can also be quite long. I'd like to look in a bit more detail now at what we think are the building blocks or the value streams to maturity in this area. So in the bottom corner there you have your individual project schedule. Now some project managers will build this as a matter of course and some won't, and there'll always be varying standards to this if we leave them to their own devices. The trick to doing this successfully is that all schedules need to be developed to the same standards, with a standard WBS or from a template which is similar for similar types of projects, and to a structure that can be integrated at a portfolio level. You'll also need to decide on a model for your scheduling practice. Are the project managers responsible for building schedulers and making sure they're to the correct standards, or are you going to have dedicated schedulers or project controllers? There's no right or wrong answer on this one. It can work both ways, and it just depends on resource availability and the appetite for change or investment. Once you have your schedule, you need to put some health metrics across it, and there's lots of metrics that are readily available across the industry. Once you've done that, you can clearly determine if they meet your organisationally mandated standards. When you're confident that your project schedules are in good health, you can start to get good critical path data, good information on dependencies, resource capacity data, and a really reliable source of reporting data, that central source of information. Some organisations even link cost directly into the schedule, but many don't. And where there's separate reporting of costs, your schedule can be validated or not against those costs, looking at actual spend and looking at forecasts. You can only start to do all of these things though when you get to a point where the standards you set are actually being met. If we move on to look at portfolio control, when your schedules are reliable and integrated into the master schedule and you're happy with the standard, you're able to take that next leap into maturity. Again, this takes organisational commitment and perhaps some change management for best results. Because often when you start portfolio reporting, the exec or senior leadership team will become interested, so you really need to make sure you're on solid ground. Again, starting in the bottom corner, you now have an integrated master schedule. all your work in one place, so it's great for scenario modelling. You can see how additional work or changes to resources or dependencies can impact your whole portfolio of work. Of course, value management isn't directly related to having an integrated master schedule. You can do it on an individual project. However, it's in the centre there because it's generally done when PMOs are in this area for maturity. I personally have never seen it done well in an immature scheduling environment. At the top of the pyramid, you have resource management. Having a fully resourced and integrated master schedule is, in my view, peak maturity. The ability to understand what people are working on, where you have project resource conflict or additional capacity in one place, is very, very powerful and can often justify and make the whole journey worthwhile for many organisations. Of course, the commitment to go on the journey is only part of the story. To continue to have good data and therefore credibility, you must commit to staying on the journey through good updating practices and audit assurance processes being in place. If you look at the next slide, it's just a standard general PMO maturity scale. It really provides a little bit of context to what we've been talking about here with the building blocks. If you look at time and cost there, it's quite low down. It's at number 2, and value management gets up to a 3, and portfolio management gets you up to a 4. And this is a pretty standard approach to PMO maturity. You can really see how those building blocks start to work as a concept. I must at this point just address somewhat of an elephant in the room. I'm approached a lot recently by people who say, we don't need to do this work agile. It's an interesting concept. You can see on the slide there, you do plan when you're working in an agile environment, but it tends to be much shorter term planning. Even if you look at product roadmap, it doesn't generally go out more than a year, and that would probably be on the longer side of things. I was actually at a conference recently with some excellent agile practitioners and speakers who talked to models like this one and told me that this level of planning was really working well for them. But when I dug a little bit deeper and asked them about their customers' expectations and about their steering committees and the governance structures that big companies tend to have in place, most of them all did admit that they either relied on higher level portfolio planning or they intended to move to a higher level portfolio planning system. Clients and boards or executive leadership teams do tend to think in a more waterfall project planning way. So we really, whatever project context we're working on, we need to be able to communicate with the people who are our customers or our project sponsors. If you were looking for a place to start on this journey, I would advise you to pick a project that needs some focus, maybe a higher profile project or set of projects, and really demonstrate the value of working on the plan on that project first. Look at resources, look at dependencies, point to it as a credible data source, and you'll soon create a demand for the services you're offering. So a little bit of a summary at this point. You need this project schedule. Actually, you really need this, many project schedules integrated into a master schedule. And this doesn't really help. So you can see there's some Excel spreadsheets and a release plan. They may help you along the journey, but they really won't help you with integrated planning. And just to finish up, just a little summary of do's and don'ts. So do determine what model your scheduling practice will have. Are your project managers responsible for planning and scheduling, or are you going to get dedicated schedulers or project controllers? Consider a pilot approach. Adopt high-profile projects there, demonstrate value, show your worth. Make sure everybody understands actually why you're doing this. It's probably going to be extra work for most people, certainly project managers, but it's hard to argue against doing it when you can see the benefits and the extra control and visibility and confidence that comes with it when you start to do it well. And gradually increase the standards and metrics you set for schedule health. Start off quite low, set them on day one, and then gradually increase as people get better. And don't be tempted to roll out the change without some change effort. That doesn't necessarily mean a change manager. It could, but certainly communicate, tell people why, Take people on the journey with you. Let them do it with you rather than doing it to them. Don't scrimp on scheduling expertise. When you employ a scheduler, get someone who's done a rollout from scratch before. Certainly the Sydney market is running really hot at the moment, and schedulers and planners can be quite expensive and quite scarce. I would advise you to persist and make sure you get the right person to help you. And don't be too tentative. You'll get results from week 1 if you set that expectation. As I mentioned earlier, the road to realising value can be quite long in an organisational sense, but you will see incremental improvements from the beginning. So make it clear that that's what you expect. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to post them below this video and we'll do our best to answer them. Thank you.